Hi, I'm Captain Larry Bell with Texas Fishing Tips, and this is your weekly fishing report.
Here in Carlos Bay, all this area on the shoreline, all the way down to the point, all this area here. Worked this area really good. There's been a decent amount of bait that's been working this area. Again, we have super high tides right now. There's in here these big bull tides we've been having for the last couple of weeks. This water has still stayed in here, and it's been good. It's been allowing you to be able to get to areas that you probably wouldn't be able to get to otherwise, especially if you don't have a skinny running boat. Obviously, if you do have a skinny running boat, it won't be a problem for you to get into a lot of places. But those that don't have one, it's allowing people to be able to fish different areas that they haven't been able to. This is one of those areas that it can get skinny on you if you're not careful. So with this extra water in here, get up here close to the shoreline, get out. Great bottom that's up in here. You can wade this, you can drift this if that's what you want to do. Just pay attention to what the winds are doing. Make sure you pay attention to the tides. Incorporate your majors and minors throughout your process of the day. But the main bait that I've been using the last few days anyway has been starting out with a topwater bait tied up against the shoreline and just working it. Be very patient with it. Be real patient with that topwater bait. It's not going to be just instantaneous success with it. You have to work it, and you'll find your fish with it periodically. Now, if you've got more than one people with you, then having somebody throwing a topwater bait, having somebody throw a down south or a mullet run, either one, and just the green version, the Envy in the mullet run, or the jerk shrimp for marker 54 would be really good. There's been a few fish that we're catching that they're spitting up shrimp, so it's just a great indicator right there. It's like, hey, what do they wonder what they're eating? Well, there you go. It's a great indicator. So throw that shrimp, throw that mullet run, throw your topwater baits, depending on how many people you got. Vary up your retrieves, vary up the size of the body of those baits, and see what they want. We're starting to get into that time of the year transition-wise where it's not super cool yet, still a little on the warm side, but it's kind of varying. You get cool days early in the morning, you're getting warmer afternoons. So sometimes these fish get into a little bit of a lull, so they're trying to figure it out and what they really want to do. So you have to pay attention. Still finding fish over hard-packed sand and shale, starting to transition over to mud and grass and starting to fish those areas a little bit more and finding fish there as well. So that's a little bit of an indicator that fish are starting to move to those areas now. As these cold fronts begin to start pushing in on us, week by week, we'll start paying attention to those things, and those transition days will be coming. We're on the backside of a full moon right now, so make sure that you vary that bait size to a little bit smaller, because you're going to have some days that will come that'll be kind of all over the place, so you kind of have to figure them out. Back here in the back bays of Bray Cove, Little Brundit, connected to Big Brundit, all that area back in there, all interconnected, these back lakes. One of the great things that's happening, if you're not aware, Cedar Bayou is open. They're still doing a little bit of work up there, but the water is flowing through Cedar, and that's going to be a great thing heading into our winter months and headed into next spring. These fish will find their way through that. Now, when that takes place, I don't know, but that'll be things that we just have to take care of and look at day by day, week by week, and just begin to pay attention to that. But when the fish start to flow through this area, the fishing up here is going to be spectacular. It's going to be really good. As of right now, though, again, with our super high bull tides that we got in here, there's a ton of water that's being pushed back into these back lakes. Some of these areas are wadeable. You can get out of your boat and work these areas all back in here in the Little Brundit, the back lakes there of Bray Cove, the little back lake mouths that dump out into Bray Cove. Those are pretty wadeable to a point. Now, once you get a little further back there, a bunch of silt built up. You'll see bait working all back in these areas, but it gets a little sticky, it gets a little soft, so you may not want to contend with that. So if you do have a trolling motor on your boat, get on that trolling motor and work these edges. There are redfish that are cruising up and down these edges, all sizes, rat reds all the way up to mid to upper slot redfish. And two baits that's been working really good has been the burner shad from down south, not any the Color X, Chicken of the Sea, Purple Rain, 3 in particular that I can remember that we've been throwing, and then again topwater bait, Spook Junior, She Dog, any of those have been fine as long as you got a white or a silver belly on those baits. Those are going to be prime because that's what majority of your bait fish do have. They have that white or silver belly, so that's why it's important to throw that particular type of topwater bait. Other than that, chunk them. Work these edges, work this deeper water, work all in these back lakes that are all back in here. Again, some of these areas you can wade. We're finding fish is kind of scattered all over the place, not necessarily concentrated. So they do have access to all different kinds of areas that they haven't been able to get into. So you'll find some fish in some obscure areas that you wouldn't think normally would be there. So if you see some bait working in an area, again, that's your number one key thing is find bait working. But once you do find that, work that area really well. You'll be pleasantly surprised to find you a few fish stuck back in some of these back lakes. Down here in Port Bay, this big flat that's right here right off of Swan Lake. Swan Lake shorelines have been really good as well. While we're in this particular area, I'll go ahead and comment on this particular spot here. These grass islands right here have been holding some nice fish. There's a tremendous amount of finger mullet that are working in and around these baits. I mean, these little islands that are in here. A lot of grass that's in here. It's really good. It's very healthy. Again, with our high tides that we've had all in this area here. Get in either on the front half of it or get on the back half of these islands and work these. Get your topwater bait. Whoever can throw the topwater, get on the topwater bait and chunk it. They're getting great reaction to this. You're getting a lot of tail slaps, a lot of swirls. So it's telling me that these fish are not necessarily ready to blow up on it and eat it. So another bait that's been really good this past week has been the Double D. It really doesn't matter which one that you throw. The Double D has just been lights out for me this week as well, as long as with the burner shad and my down souths, which is always my go-to in any particular area. But the topwater baits, Double Ds, down souths, chicken of the sea, magic grass, and watermelon red have been really good. It's been the most productive for me for this past week. Work these edges, work these guts, work around here. You'll see tremendous amount of bait that's in and out of here. You'll find scattered redfish in here. We've found black drum in here. We've got pulled a flounder or two out around these areas. And then, of course, trout. There's been some nice-sized box trout that's been caught around these areas as well, in and out of these guts and on these edges of this grass. But all that being said, back over here in Port Bay, come back around here and work this edge of this thing. Again, with the amount of water that we have, you're not really having to work deep water. But you can get up on that flat, and there's some great potholes and great grass around here. Work the points. Find your edges that you can find this with your bait fish swimming in and around this grass flat that's up here. Work it all the way down and around. Continue to work this. If you don't want to wade it, get in your boat, kayak, whatever you like, and work this edge all up and down here. There's been a nice amount of fish that's being pulled out of this area. Redfish, trout, again, a few scattered flounder ever so often. But the main bait of choice, again, has been the four, what I just mentioned a minute ago. It's been the topwater baits. It's been the Double D, burner shad, and the down souths have been really good all in this area here, especially with the moon that we have. We're on the backside of that full moon. Again, make sure that you incorporate the majors and minors into your day. It's extremely important, especially when you're throwing artificial. That's what we rely on because it really increases the bite activity during in and around that time frame. It's just things you have to really kind of track and take care of and pay attention to what your bait's doing and what the fish are doing. Once you kind of figure that out, man, you can really go to town and work in these baits and you'll locate some nice fish.
Thanks for watching. I'm Captain Larry Bell.